Hey everybody, welcome. We are live on this Wednesday for another Masterclass session. And today we're doing part 2 of our Ancient City series using the Classical Empires pack from the Fantasy Regional style. And today we're going to be focusing on a couple things. We're going to be making the foundations, the bridges that connect the foundations, and also some docks, as well as how to make these kind of these wave breakers, what I'm going to call storm breakers, which will go into some lore. They're triumvirate. And don't worry, we're going to remake everything that you see here that I made off screen. I'll be remaking. So I'll delete them and I'll show them. I don't want to leave anybody hanging on like, wait a minute, how did you make that? We're going to go from beginning to end on how I made all of this stuff. So, hey everyone. Hey, Kay-Faye. Hey, Andrew. Welcome, everybody. Okay. All right. So first, some things, let me just show you what it is that we'll be working on exactly here. For instance, you're going to notice that I made some foundations for the more island parts of the city. And these foundations, I use these modular kind of pieces for it, as well as some modular bridges. And I made my own bridges using some modular pieces as well. And then these dock pieces. So we're going to be showing you how I put this together. I'm going to show you how I made these Stormbreaker, this triumvirate god setup, and we'll go over the lore on what the role that these three gods play in the city as well. So we'll be making all of that stuff. So I'll go ahead and go and delete the Stormbreakers, and I'll go ahead and return the island structures and remove the foundations. And then I'll go ahead and move... Oopsie, wrong one. So right here, these structures over to here. So the things I did do off screen are not very difficult. All I did was just group and label some stuff. And if you're kind of curious how I decide how to group things, it's not too difficult, really. What I'll do is I'll kind of have things that are closest to me. For instance, this lighthouse is going to be higher up in the layer system, while the mountains in the background and the aqueduct are going to be further down the layer system. So if you're wondering how I do my layers, it's really foreground, background. That's how I set it up. So things that are far off in the distance or in the background, those are going to be, -5 to, maybe 0. While things in the foreground might be from 1 all the way to +5 being closest to you. So how I do my layers and how I group is not too difficult. So let's go ahead and make the foundations. And this is not too difficult. We go into the catalog. And what's really nice is you can just scroll down and you can kind of see everything. And there should be something called Classical Empires. This is Fantasy Battle Maps, my mistake. Let's go down, Fantasy Regional, Classical Empires. And I'll kind of just show all the assets so you can kind of see it again. It's basically a Roman and Greco-Roman kind of inspiration. You can see all kinds of fun stuff, and you'll see that there's some modular pieces here. We're going to use these modular pieces to make our foundation. So just kind of look all over all the pieces that you can use here, cliffs, everything that we used. And then we're going to use one of these right here, this dock platform. And the reason why I'm using this is because it seems to have some moss growing up on the side of it. And that makes sense to me, right? These islands, foundations for these islands are basically on the water. And so you would expect some like algae or maybe something to be growing along the side of it because it's constantly in contact with the water. So having some green there is a good choice. And what I'll do is I'm just going to scale it down to where it fits on the grid. Notice here that I have my grid, and I want to make sure that it's just a layer behind my lighthouse, but not above my lighthouse. So 0 is a good place. And I'll place the first one here like this, and then just copy paste like this. And I'll kind of line them up so they fit correctly. And then I can just go ahead and copy and paste these, and I'm just going to create the entire line going over each island like this. So I kind of piece it together like this. Copy, paste, do it again. Remember, these have to be all on the same layer for them to kind of layer properly. And then I'll copy and paste these two together like this. And it does look like I have to go a little bit more over the edge like this. Okay. So now that those are built, now I can go ahead and just copy and paste the whole thing like this. Copy and paste again. And now I have this platform that kind of represents the foundations. And this way, when waves come in, they won't like wash out the buildings that are on top of here, right? As well as the wave breakers that we're going to be building out here. Those wave breakers will make sure that when a storm comes in, that those waves don't wash out a lot of the houses. Those wave breakers will break the waves and keep that kind of protected. So there's our first platform right here. And what I generally do is I'll just select the whole thing right now, make sure I have it all selected. What I'll do is I'll move it just to be sure, create group and call it platform or foundations, whichever one you want. Now what's really nice is it saves what you would label something. So in here in this list, so I just go foundations and go to create, and I'll realign to make sure that it's on where the land is. And then again, same thing, I'll copy and paste these, add them on here, stack them up. Pretty easy stuff. There we go. And then I'll make sure I select all of them again. And this is going to be my next platform. G, and I'll just type in F, and then foundations should just show up. Create. Another foundation done. Great. And then we'll do the next one as well. Oopsie, I think I missed the third one. There we go. Copy, paste. And then copy, paste one more time. Another foundation done. Let's go ahead and select all of them. G, foundations. So much nicer than having to type in foundations every time, right? And then I should be able to copy and paste these pieces and place them on each one like this. And that way I do myself less work. And then I'll have to redo these ones by hands, these smaller islands. And all I have to do is just flip and rotate like this. And then I'll just place my pieces here. And if they're off a little bit, don't worry about it. You can always come back and just realign them. So let's go ahead and take it here, make sure I realign these. There we go. And then I can just copy and paste these. There we go. And then put the last one right here. There we go. Okay. Now there are these foundations here. And now we want to maybe create some bridges and docks that are going to connect them. And so one thing we can use, if we go back in here, you'll notice that there are these arcaded dock wall. And they have these arches, and that's going to be quite helpful, right? Because the arches are going to make sure that there's a flow of water going underneath the bridge. So we'll go ahead and place that there. And then what you'll have to do is that we'll have to place some of these a layer up. So I'm going to have these be up on, these are going to be on 0. These are going to be on layer 1, and these foundations right here are going to be on layer 2. And I'll make sure to select them all. Create group, foundations, and then this needs to be on, oopsie, did I miss one? Oh, I don't think it saved it, my mistake. There we go. I think I pressed the wrong key, my mistake. Let's make sure I have it all selected. Perfect. Create group, foundations, create, there we go. Make sure it's on layer 2. So 0, 1, 2. And that's because when I go to place these stamps, this bridge piece right here will be in front of the foundation that's behind it, but it will also be behind the island in front of it. So that way you have that. So let's go ahead and just scale it up so it fits like this. And then there should be a flat piece that we can use up here. Let me scroll down. Maybe it's down here. I think it's right here. And we'll use this piece right here and just place it like this in front. And then we'll make sure to connect. And then we have our bridge right there. And then I just create group. And now I have this nice bridge here. I'm going to go ahead and select it and rename it. We'll call it bridge. There we go, rename. And then I have that bridge, and you can line it up with the grid, as you can see I have here. And then I can copy and paste it. And then I can put another one maybe right there. And then put another one that goes over right here like this. So now I have those bridges done, right? But I also want to have some bridges connecting the other islands as well. So there should be some just regular bridge pieces that we can use. If I type in bridge, you'll notice that there are these kind of bridge pieces right here. We could try using one of these maybe. Let's go up a layer because these are on layer 1. This has to be on layer 1. And then we'll just go ahead and push it up against right here until it kind of catches right going across like this. So I have that one. Let's go ahead and put another one going like this. Another one like this. And then let's also put another one that's going across like this. Okay, so now we have those connected. There we go. Let me just take a step back and make sure that they look right. Okay, the bridges are connected. That looks good. Let's also add in our docks. And I think I saw some wooden ones. They're down here at the bottom. Let's scroll down and take a look. I think it's right up here somewhere. Let's see here. Here we go. They have the wooden pieces right here. These will work great. And then we'll go ahead and take the dock and we'll place them. I have to go up a layer. And I'm just going to take these docks and place them like this, going out. Then we have our dock system kind of going out like this. So I think that looks okay. And I'm just going to take a quick look at it and just make sure that everything kind of comes together well. Oop, this needs to go up a layer. It looks like, there we go. So all the docks are connected. That looks fine. And then what I should do from there is make sure that I connect all of these pieces together. I'll select all these pieces. Let me make sure that I have it all. Oh, it looks like I missed that one right there. Oop, I missed that one and that one. I think I got it all. And then create group, and then we'll call it foundations. Create, and then we have this nice foundation piece on top, and then we can go back to this group, the island structures, and that needs to be on layer 1 above it, and then I place it, these pieces right back on. There we go, right about there it looks like. There we go. And I'll take a step, kind of move forward and kind of make sure that it is set up right. I don't want anything to be overhanging. It looks like those pieces need to be moved a little bit more this way. There we go. Just kind of checking everything. There we go. And I can always move things like this right here. There's some bridges that are kind of in the way. So I might want to rethink probably this area right here. Rethink some of this area right here. Make sure that those bridges are not too obstructed. So I'll make sure to add that. And I'm going to have these islands be more isolated so they're not connected to each other. You have to go down the main way right here to kind of get to those. Okay. We're at 99 changes. I'm going to quickly save it. So putting together the foundations is not difficult. Just make sure that you've made this, if you made the mistake that I made, which is I didn't make the foundations first, I made the structures. Whichever order, you would build with the foundations and then you could put those structures on top of them. So I had to backtrack just a little bit, but it wasn't too much of a problem. I just saved them as a groups, moved them into the ocean, and then put those foundations together. And I think I'm not going to put down that same kind of foundations where more of the slums are. That's more of that brown, dirtier looking roofs. And I kind of feel like that kind of makes sense because, you know, the more wealthy you are, the more you can afford the protections from the sea. And so I will have those breakers, those storm breakers, those islands. We'll go ahead and make those as well. So that way we can have a way to protect some of the people that live in the slums. The people who live in the higher up portions where those foundations are, they're a little more protected from higher waves with those foundations there. So we'll go ahead and make those breaker islands. And I'll use that same foundation, this one right here. I'm going to place it down like this. And then I'm going to go in the catalog. I'm going to choose rock. I'm going to choose these rocks right here. And you want to make sure that this is up one layer. So I'll have this be on layer 1 and I'll have this be on layer 0. And then I'm going to go ahead and place multiple underneath it. And what we're going to create is the rock formation in which these breakers are built upon. Think of it like when you go to the coast and there's a jetty, and that jetty is made of all these stacked rocks. It's the same concept. These jetty-like formations are wave breakers. They're going to help to make sure that the waves don't kind of consume the city during a storm. So this is that first island. You notice those rocks. Now we can take a rock and put it up one layer. Let's put it up to layer 2. And then the way that you'll make this blend in better is put some rocks in front like this. And you'll notice that they blend in a little bit better, right? There's rocks underneath and rocks on top. And now it doesn't look like there's that straight line work underneath. And then the final step is let's create some rocks underwater to show that these are a little bit shallower. So we'll go to like -2. We'll change the blend mode to luminosity. And then I'll probably bring the contrast down a little bit. And now that the contrast is down and that's down, I can go ahead and place some more rocks like this. And then I'm going to just place them so where they're kind of sticking out a little bit. And then here's my first island with some rocks underwater, above the water. And then I'm going to go ahead and place a statue there. And I want to choose my first statue, which is the warrior. So I'll just type in statue like this. And I'm going to look for my warrior statue. If they have a fancy kind of helmet, here they are right here. Perfect. I'm going to take it up a layer to +2. And I'm going to place them on top of the island. And this is the first deity called the warrior. And the warrior is one of the gods that this ancient city kind of worships. So we'll put that there. And then also, we'll maybe add in some pillars to kind of frame the statue. So I'll put some pillars here and a pillar right here. And now I have this general formation kind of set up. And now I can just do the same thing to the other 3 islands, right? That same concept. I'm going to make them about 3 tiles apart from each other, like this. I want to make sure that there's enough room for ships to get through. So maybe put one here and another one right here. Again, I want to make sure there's enough room for ships to get through, but they're also close enough to each other that they will break some of the waves as they come encroaching upon the city, right? So first, we have that set up. Now we can do the same thing we did before, right? Let's go ahead and make sure that all our layers are correct. Layer 1. Let's go ahead and take a rock formation and bring it down below. And, oh, it's set to luminosity, my mistake. Normal. And I'll go ahead and just kind of place a little formation. And I'm going to do each one individually instead of... oopsie, I noticed the contrast is off as well, my mistake. Contrast, there we go. Put that back there. You'll notice that I'm not just copying and pasting this Stormbreaker Island and just placing it over here. And there's a reason why. It's because it's going to look more natural and different and more unique when you do the rock formations different for each island. Otherwise, it just looks like you just copied and pasted. This is one of those instances where I don't do a lot of copying and pasting. I'll do the rock formations individually. It takes a little bit more time, but it does pay off. I'm just saying. So I'll just make sure that I have that contrast back up. I'm going to go up to layer 2. Remember, we're going to do that trick where we hide some of the line work at the bottom here. That works out great. And then we'll do that last step, put them at layer -2, and then do that contrast and luminosity blend mode. There we go. And it looks completely different. And the next one is, the next deity is called the Widow. And so we'll go ahead and add that one in there. Let's see, I think it's this one right here. Perfect. We'll scale it down a little bit. Layer +2. And I'm going to place it right in the middle there for our next deity. And I'll just copy and paste these pillars. Copy and paste. And voila, the next island is done. And then we'll do that last island. So here we go again. Take those rocks. We'll go down to layer -1. I'm going to make sure that I have the right blend mode on and everything. This is where I generally should be favoriting these settings, but I'm not. Okay, there we go. Last island. Let's add a little point where it kind of juts out there. Maybe put one that juts out a little bit more there. And then maybe it juts out a little bit right here as well, making it more difficult for ships to kind of navigate. We'll go back up to -+2 and then kind of take care of those corners. There we go. Back down another layer, -2. Bring the contrast down, and we'll change the blend mode to luminosity. There we go. And then I'll go ahead and place those. Ooh, because that juts out right there, I should probably put some there. Some there, right here, and there. There we go. Okay. So you have these nice rock formations, and let's add the last god, which is going to be the scholar. So it's the warrior, the widow, and the scholar. And it's one of these guys right here. I think it is right here. Let me make sure I get the kind of scale right. So I'm just base it off of the same size as this one. Place this right on top. It needs to be on layer +2. There we go. And then that last pillar right here. Copy, paste. There we go. Oopsie. This might have to go up one more layer. Okay. So now you have the storm breakers. These are again the islands that are going to like keep the ship, keep the it safe. So I'll kind of name each one, create group, and I'm going to call this the warrior. Create. We'll do the next one. Create group, the widow. Create, and then the scholar. Create group. Okay. All right. So you have those 3 islands there. Let's go ahead and save it. A lot of changes here. We're going to do just a couple more things. The witter and the wiser. Oh, I like the wise. You know what? I think I might go with the wise, or the wizened, the warrior, the the widow, and the wiser, or the wizened. I like that. I might look into that. Change that up. I like that. So as you can see, the foundations have been put together. Let me check my time. Ooh, wow, we got a lot done really quick. That's impressive. Awesome. I'm going to do a couple more things. I'm going to do some ocean painting. I'm going to show you how I put that together. So you'll notice that right now, everything kind of looks like this lighter blue color. And I want to show some depth because right now it seems very, very flat. It's just this very shallow water. So the way to indicate deeper water is to use a darker color, right? The deeper something is, the more, the more space in which sun needs to penetrate, right? And so always just follow this kind of logic that deeper water is darker water. And what we can do is to show that the water is shallow, we'll go ahead and we'll start adding our layers of depth emanating away from the shoreline. So if I go into the catalog, and you'll see this is the shallow sea texture that I used here to show that it's shallow. This one's just named sea to represent it's a little bit deeper. See, it's a darker blue. What you'll do is make sure it's set to the BG layer, bring the opacity down. The secret to blending a texture or textures is bringing the opacity down a little bit. And what I'll do is I'll start furthest away from it here in this corner, and I'll just start adding my first hint of blue. Then I'll go over it again, a little bit further away, making it a little bit darker, and then do it again. And then as the further and further that I get away from the shoreline, the deeper the water gets. So that's kind of the logic that I kind of follow, right? So I'll make sure that this part in this corner right here is nice, deep blue. So now you kind of get the concept of depth. So this is my trick for depth. And then we can also do that same thing. If we wanted to show that maybe there was some depth, you could also put some along the shoreline like this to make it look like there's maybe like an incline, some kind of incline in the water. So that's one thing that you can do. You can also add a lighter variation of that blue texture that we're using. So I'll use that same blue texture and then bring the brightness up and then do it again. This time, really go in here and just make the shallower water much brighter. Let's bring this brightness up quite a bit, actually, so it's quite noticeable. There we go. And then I can really bring in that lighter color here like this, and then we'll put just a little bit of that lighter texture in the dock along the shoreline here, along this shoreline, just to kind of show that more shallow element to it. There we go. Awesome. Maybe just a little bit more along the shoreline and along here as well. There we go. Okay. So the secret to the depth in your oceans is just as always, contrast. What I say in all the streams that I do, the secret to depth is always contrast. There's other elements as well, stamp structure and all this other stuff, but when it comes to texturing, it's the depth is the contrast. Darker, deeper, lighter, shallower. So not complex, pretty easy stuff. Now, what about, we'll quickly save this, and then let's talk maybe about how is it that we want to show that there's reflections in the water? How do we show movement in the water? How do I show waves? How do I show maybe reflections in the water from the sun? How do we add all that stuff in there? Because this will add another layer of depth to your maps by doing this. So we'll make sure to set that up. So let's take a step back here. I'm going to look at it real quick. Okay. You know, actually, I'm going to quickly do one thing real quickly. I like this underwater stones right here. And I think what I might do is to show that there's a rocky cliff that goes down into the water. I think I'm going to put it all along my shoreline here. And then I'm going to flatten that to the BG layer because it's going to overlap. You see how it overlaps like that? I don't want it to do that. So what I'll do is I'll go here like this and just kind of place them along this ledge right here. And I'm going to do it all with one stroke. Don't let go. So all one stroke like this. And then when I let go of it, and then I go to the select tool, we'll select every single thing that I dragged and clicked. Then I'll go ahead and use this hamburger menu. And there's this flatten to BG layer. And then you'll notice that it flattens and it stays to the BG layer. That's perfect because I want to show that the rocks kind of are underneath. And then one other trick that you can do is have some of the rocks not be under luminosity blend mode. So that way you have this rocky coast. We'll go ahead and bring the contrast and everything back to normal. And I'm just going to place like one right there. I'll place some right here, here, maybe one like right here, like that. Maybe place one right here, one here, and then bring the scale down and get some smaller ones in here, like this. Oopsie, not that one. And then we have this kind of nice rocky kind of coastline. I think that kind of works out well, and that way it doesn't always seem so flat. Now, all of them are kind of spaced apart evenly, and I don't really care for that. So what I might do is cluster a couple of them really close together, like this, so that way it has a more natural look. A lot of these were like equidistant to each other, not perfectly, but very close to that. And I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that they look natural. And so I'll maybe space them out a little bit more, maybe create this illusion of like a cluster. And maybe I should even change the size. That one's too similar to this one. Let's change it. Let's go with this one. I'll bring the size up a little bit. There we go. That looks a little better. And then I'll do that same thing over here to this side. So I'll just go back, bring that contrast down, luminosity, and then just kind of place it all along this shore here. Oopsie, I'm doing single clicks. My mistake. That means I'll have to single click every single one of those to select. So I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to just drag like I was doing before. There we go. Okay, and then when I go to the select tool, we'll select all of them. Let's bring the contrast down a little bit more. We'll flatten to the BG. There we go. And then that same trick we did here, we'll grab these rock formations. Because, you know, that flat line just looks really bizarre, right? And so this will kind of help to break up that flat line. Bring it back to normal. Okay. All right. Okay. Oopsie. I left it on luminosity. It's okay. And then we're going to fix a lot of this stuff here. Let's go up a layer and bring it back to the normal blend mode. There we go. Okay. There we go. And then we'll make some changes to this coastline as well, because it seems like a flat line. And so what I'll do is I'll go to the add mode of the mask tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rocks as a guide on where I should be changing my coastline. So notice here, let me go down to like the smallest size that I can get. I think 2 works good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use these rocks as kind of a guide. like this. And then what this will do is it should help break up that straight line. Just use the lines of the coastline like this. Notice that one there. Let's go in here, here, put that like that. There we go. That looks a little better. Put that one there like that. That looks good. Let's put one there here. Let's put this up along that one. Along here, that looks good. I think in there, here, here. Okay. A little bit of line work there. Let's follow it till it goes about there. Here. Okay, there we go. And this should help to kind of break up the straight line that you have because you're following the line work. So that should kind of help to break that weird feeling that you're going to be experiencing when you're kind of putting it together. There we go. Okay. I think that looks a lot better. We'll have to do the same over here as well. But I think overall it does match in better by following the line work. And then we're also going to use a texture to throw in some stones because if this is a rocky island, we want to have lots of rocks, but we'll be throwing in some of that. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll go in here. There should be some of these rock alphas right here, small rocks. Let's change the scale. I can see how big it is. And then we'll go to FG layer. Make sure the opacity is all the way up. Let's see here. Is it set to FG? Okay. Let me make sure that I have everything right here. Let me change to make sure the settings is right. Let's bring the contrast up. Let's change the scale. Let's go ahead and apply. There we go. So now I have some rocks that I can put along here that should break up some of that weird kind of feel to it. And the same thing over here. I'll probably add maybe just a little bit of rocks along here, just a little bit. And then I'll go ahead and do that same trick. Remember, use the line work. Just travel along the line work here. That looks good. I think along this should look good. Here should be good. I think this looks good like that. Just remember, just to follow that line work. Doesn't take very long, just a little bit of practice. Just go in here, go over this, fix that. That looks good. Let's put it over here like this. There we go. Now it all kind of follows the stone much, much better. And because you flattened it, it won't interfere because you're just basically adding FG on top of that flatten. So now we have this more rocky kind of coastline, which is what you would expect, right? And we'll do the same thing here again, right here. I'll just kind of place them all along here. Oop, you know, these seem a little darker. And I did, I made a mistake. Again, I did single clicks. I love that. Okay, let's try it again. Here we go. All right. I want to make sure everything's selected. There we go. Perfect. And then I think I might bring the contrast down just a little bit. There we go. Fits better. And then, of course, flatten to BBG. Then we'll go ahead and add in our top, the rocks on top. And then we'll use the add mode of the mask tool. There we go there. I think right about there looks good. And then let's put one on this corner, just like right there. Perfect. And then we'll go in, follow that line work. I think here looks good. Let's just do along here as well. There, and then right about there, I think looks good. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, cool. There we go. Fits with the line work. Perfect. Okay, let's take a step back. Just take a look at it. Great. And then I'll add in again that stone texture right here. Perfect. There we go. Take a step back. Just look at it. Cool. So, all right. So we're getting more realism in it. I noticed some people earlier in the first episode were saying it just wasn't very realistic. Well, we just hadn't gotten there yet. There's just so much to kind of add to it, right? There's a lot to add. Okay. So now that I've added in those rock formations and stuff, now I think it's fair. I can go in and start adding in the waves. So there's a couple ways that you can approach waves. You can just add it as a texture. If you go back, click Fantasy Regional, and just type in wave. There should be a wave texture. It's not there. Just click Inkarnate, and then it will load all of the textures. You can use textures from Fantasy Battle Maps. Alphas are probably the best way to go about it. So this is more like your water foam. Like this is something that you might use more for your still water. There is not a flow. So you could like use this to kind of show more stiller water. So I can go in like this and kind of put in something more like that if I want to. So I find that can be helpful just to show that the water is not completely... Whatever, I'm going to undo this real quick. Go back. Let me go to my history. Instead of undoing it multiple times, here we go. Restore. There we go. Okay. So a lot of different ways you can go about it. I would do, because it's an ocean, there's probably going to be some more actually like rolling waves. So I would kind of use these white water waves right here. You want to make sure that you kind of get the scale up. Oopsie, I think that might be the wrong style. Let me go with Fantasy Battle Maps to make sure. Water waves, there we go. We'll have to change the scale. We'll have to rotate it to make sure that I can show which way the waves are going. And it looks like there seems to be some kind of bug with the texture previewer. Don't worry, we will get that fixed. Let's go ahead and rotate that. There we go. And then again, remember that trick to blending, to doing texturing, is to bring the opacity down. And one thing I want to do is I want to emphasize that those wave breakers work. So what I should do is put some more heavier waves before the windbreakers, and then after the windbreakers, I'll show the very subtle hint of waves, just to show that those wave breakers actually work. So I'll start out here by just putting some more heavier type of waves. And here we can kind of start here like this. And then what I'll end up doing here is I'll go to 100%, and I'll just choose one size like this, and then create like a line that goes across like this to kind of show some of the wave. And then I'll bring that opacity back down, and then I'll just show the very hint of waves kind of going into here. So some very, very subtle waves on this side. Again, we want to show that those wave breakers work. The storm breakers, I'm calling them. Okay, I think that looks okay. And then we'll show a little bit of movement in here by using a snow texture. So if I type in snow, I'm still in Fantasy Battle Maps. You'll notice there's this snow texture right here. This stuff works great. If I bring the scale down, and there's a couple places that I probably want to put this, and I probably want to put some along here. This is going to kind of represent some of the waves crashing up against the rocks. And one thing I might want to consider doing for each one of these islands is flattening the rocks that have luminosity on it. So I might want to maybe select, and I'm not even sure which ones actually were it, but that's okay. What I'll do is I'll put some white water, this snow texture, right in front of the islands to show that there's like wake hitting up against it. And same thing here. I'll put a little bit of the white texture along here and along here just to kind of show that there's like waves hitting it. And then I'll put some white along this coastline here as well. And it goes over the stamps as well. So at least we're showing some interaction. And it will also create this nice sense of contrast, right? This is like a pure white color. White is a neutral color. And so it contrasts well with any other color, goes well with any other color because of that neutral. And so that white pops out really well along those edges there. And it kind of gives it this feeling of interaction with the ocean, right? So we have some waves interacting with those edges there. And as you can see, a heck of a lot of clicks when you paint. So you just have to, as soon as you finish painting an area, make sure that you save it because it can get kind of hectic. I think there are 39. We got time. Let's go ahead and throw in some ships, because one question that I get from a lot of people when making a city is like, oh, that's going to be easily attacked. Oh, that's not very well defended. Oh, these people are going to die if an army comes through and takes this place. Don't worry, we're going to think about that. So one thing is that we have these docks right here. And one thing that you'll notice that it's tucked in to like into the alcove of like a mountain. So that part of the city is safe. It's the ocean in which they're most susceptible, not just to weather, adverse weather, but also to, could be pirates, it could be an invading force, whatever it might be, right? So what we'll do is we'll maybe take some ships from our classical empire style, and we'll go ahead and put some ships there. We want to show some kind of armada. So maybe we'll have a series of ships out there that are kind of parked. This is kind of large, so we'll bring the scale down quite a bit. And they has to scale to where it can fit in between these islands right here. Just kind of notice that. So if I look at the island, I want to make sure that it kind of fits in between here. Obviously, these ships weren't meant to go into the canals. Smaller boats were meant for that. And I think this scale looks about right. We look at the island here, and a boat is quite a large boat. Let's go maybe down to about 40. That's quite a large boat, but I think that size looks about right. And then we'll have one going through to kind of show what it looks like. We'll have one placed over here. I'm going to make sure that it's set to the right layer as well. See, it looks like it's behind it, so I'll have to set that up. We'll put it right up against here. And then we'll have a bunch of other ships kind of set in this area right here to kind of represent that there is an armada coming through. So we'll put a series of boats, and this will kind of represent the protection. Let's put some with some sails as well, like maybe going away, maybe one with sails going towards, maybe one going this way, like this, to kind of represent that there's some commerce and some activity going on. Okay, so we have a couple things here. Those wave breakers, those are going to be helpful. Yes, you sunk my battleship there, Dan. Love it. So those islands, those wave breakers, or what I'm calling the storm breaker, the triumvirate gods, it also keeps multiple ships from coming in at once. You see how it kind of funnels them in with these tighter spaces? That means they're more bottlenecked, and that means that if a series of ships kind of get into the center here, they'll be able to shoot, and they'll also be able to go onto the islands and those wave breakers and defend, get onto the ships. So lots of those islands serve multiple purposes. Wave breaker as well as a kind of a defense against multiple ships being able to come into the harbor and take over the city. So some helpful stuff there, at least what I think would be kind of helpful. So we have those ships, we have an armada. Not really an armada, but enough ships here to kind of defend the coast from invaders. So I think that looks good. And I think we don't have smaller boats. I don't think. These are all ships. I could type in boat, but I don't think there is in the classical empire. But there are some smaller, these kind of smaller boats right here, and these are kind of perfect. We'll bring the scale down on them to make sure that we get the right size. What I'll do is I'll use a door or a window to kind of use as a guide. That's kind of helpful. I'm just going to scale up, and I think about that size looks right. And then I can go ahead and place these little boats kind of inside of here. And these will kind of represent the smaller boats. Inside, put some here, and then we'll probably add in some docks along here as well in these areas, because we should have some kind of dock formation. So some place for these boats to go. And then we'll also put some over here by the Colosseum. That's kind of a fantasy element. There, let's put some here. And it doesn't hurt to place a couple out here as well. So we'll place them all along here and all along out here. Whether they're fishing, put a bunch in here. There we go. And then also we'll put some behind the statues. That way there's some sense of depth. So there we go. One behind the statue. That creates a sense of depth. Maybe one behind this boat right here, so I'll put right behind that. That's one of the secrets to depth, the stacking layers, putting a stack in front of another one. So this creates this sense of depth when you do that. So that kind of helps. Okay. The only way to get to this island is through boat. And I think that's because this is more maybe the elite district, more the elite part of the district, but we can create some methods of going by boat to get up here, because right now all we have are these kind of large docks right here. So we should have some kind of stair system or some way to get up to this from the boat. So I should probably like use some kind of stair. And there are these kind of stairs right here like this. I could use these if I wanted to. Like put a staircase right there, put it along the edge. right here. I could use that, or I could use, if you want to have it have a back to it, we could use this one right here. Let me type in stairs so we can kind of see it. Here we go. There's this kind of like platform that you can use. There's these ones right here that have stairs. Let's use these. I think this kind of makes the most sense. We'll kind of place this, and then we're going to have to also place the landing. The landing is the flat piece at the top that's going to connect the main island. So we'll have to go back, and I'll probably choose the dock piece that we had before. Let's use this one right here. And I'll kind of place it right there like this. And I've noticed that it's not tall enough, so I'll have to copy and paste and then put it down below like this and stack them. And then I'll have to select all of this and then kind of place it in a location to where it kind of fits. I might have to scale this up a little bit too so it kind of fits better. It's going to be a little tighter on the channel, I think, right here. Notice it's a really tight boats go through here. But, you know, I kind of base this kind of concept off of a little bit of Venice, some of Paris, and, you know, some of the canals get really, really small. And I think having varying sizes of canals will also fill out the map and make it more interesting. And what I should do is I should group this and call it a stair. And then what I can do with this is now I can use this on multiple things. So I could copy and paste again, and this time flip it, and then put it right here. So I have a little stair that kind of goes right to here, like that. And it seems right where the opening is between those two buildings. So now a boat can actually go up against right here, and then just go right up the steps. And to even show that, I'll make sure to put a boat there. And I think what I should do is take one of these boats and just put it right in the front, just like that, just to kind of show that. Copy and paste, put another one over here. Oopsie, my mistake. Copy, paste, there we go, over here. And then I think I should continue adding, oopsie, I accidentally deleted something, didn't I? Oops. Uh-oh, what did I do? Let's hit the recovery tool real quick. If you ever see things like disappearing, something weird happens, just hit that recovery tool. What happened was it's actually pretty hot in my office right now. It's really, really hot. And so I'm using a lot of CPU usage. If I actually drag my mouse over here, it looks like I'm using 852. So I'm using very high memory usage. And so it started glitching out a little bit. Hit that recovery and then press the save button. And then I'll save it. Very funny, Bitter Dan. That's great. So we'll let this save, and I'll put everything kind of back. Recovery is your friend. If you ever see things disappear, a layer disappears, some texturing vanishes, a stamp is half missing, any of those things, just be sure to hit the recovery button, okay? And that way it'll save it. So you can see we're back to it again. Things didn't get deleted. That's great. Perfect. So then we'll go back, and we'll continue adding more and more of these staircases. So I'll copy and paste, put one right here. I think this is a good location for one. And then I'll put this boat right next to it. And in fact, I should move this a little bit more this way so that way boats can get around. Excuse me. Sorry about that little burp there. Okay, let's go ahead and add in another one, copy and paste. Let's put like a private dock that maybe goes right here, like this, that goes where that colonnade is. So I think that might look nice. Oopsie. Let's copy and paste this, and then let me go back into my foundations because I'm dealing with a layer problem. So if I go back, open up the foundation layer, then copy and paste this, and then I should be able to make sure that my layering is proper. And then I can place this right here, and then there's like this private dock that kind of connects to that colonnade in the back right there. So you're kind of getting the idea, right, how it kind of works there. And then I might want to consider adding even some stairs that kind of go down, because I'm kind of noticing that these docks are really, really high up, right? You notice that? Really, really high up. And so one thing I should do is maybe add some staircases down like this, and then boats can either come up to it. I can add some docks along the backside there to where people can kind of go up to. These docks just don't really work that well. So we could try maybe something like maybe using a flatter piece. Yep, cranes are a great idea. Oh, there's so much. We'll get into the more detailed stuff too. We'll get to that. I'm excited about that too. A couple options here. We could just take like a flat piece like this and just put it right here like this. Make sure it's made of stone. Just make sure that the boats are kind of overlapping it a little bit. So we could do that. Now it kind of makes more sense how the boats how exactly do the boats kind of dock, because I was noticing there was a problem, right? I was kind of like, well, wait a minute, these seem really massive. How does this work? So that should fix that problem. So putting those kind of pieces there. Yeah, cranes, all that stuff is good. There we go. Now there's better access, and it won't flood. The water will go up the stairs so far. So no matter how high the water gets, there'll still be a stair access that gets up to that. Another kind of thing that might be nice to add is some probably some markets, I think might be a good idea along those docks. I mean, that's kind of where you're going to have a lot of commerce happening, is wherever the ships are kind of coming in. It kind of makes sense to maybe have some docks. So I'll go ahead and find the first market that I kind of set up right here and just make sure that I have the scale right. There we go. And then I'll just place a couple market pieces maybe on one side of it like this, so that way people can still kind of move around. So I'll place it on this back side. There seems to be an opening on that side, so I'll go ahead and place the dock here. And so we have this kind of, yep, fish and chips. Yo, yeah. And then I can maybe put one in the center, and then people walk on both sides like this. There we go. That works. Oh, we'll delete that so that people can kind of get through. And then again, we'll put them in the middle here. And then we'll also place a couple along this ledge here as well, just to show that there's some market going on there. Okay. All right, let's take a step back and look at it. So now you can kind of see that our city is really, we've done a lot just in 50 minutes here. We've added in the foundations. We've added in the bridges that connect each foundation. We've added in all of the underwater elements, our wave breakers, every single one of these. Kind of put it all together. I think it looks good. And we're going to call it good for this one. We'll do a part 3 probably next month. And we'll finish up the left side. We'll probably add in all of our juicy details like carts and crates and barrels, and designating certain areas, adding details. We could stack some buildings on top of each other. We can add in another lighthouse maybe. Right here, we could add maybe another lighthouse on this corner right here. I type in light, there's a lighthouse. Scale it to the right size. I can put it right here. And then we can kind of have like another kind of lighthouse right here. So we have like these dueling lighthouses that kind of lead inward into here. And then this can also act as like a defensive position. Like maybe along these walls here, there's some cannons or whatever that are shooting down on anything that's trying to get in here. So if you have these smaller longboats that are trying to get it through this canal to get into the city, they're going to get bombarded by the lighthouse, which is probably well armed and fortified. So we'll have all of those things as well. I'll just go ahead and leave that there because I do like that concept. So I'll quickly save it again. Very first time chatter, John Thong. Unfortunately, these are not available yet. They'll be released with 2.0. And then we don't have an exact date for the release, but I have heard that hopefully sometime this summer, that's what we would like to do. As always, we don't like to give a specific date because we do want to make sure that the product is complete, kind of bug-free, or as bug-free as possible before releasing it. So, having a deadline kind of puts pressure on our programmers, on our developers, and then it kind of can diminish some of the quality. So we stick with a more loose kind of deadline, and then that way we make sure that it's the better quality when we release it, just kind of the way that we go about doing it. But let's just say for the time being, sometime this summer. Okay, so next stream we'll finish up this left side over here, and we'll also add in all those fine details through, like lighting, shadows, like the shadow of the mountain. We'll add in all our lighting, all of that fun stuff. So I'm thinking we only have to do part 3 and this will be done. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. On Friday, I think we're doing another parchment one. I can't tell. I can't see my calendar from here. So I'm excited about it. Thank you, everyone. This was a lot of fun. I really like the way the foundations turned out, much better than the way it was before. All right, everybody, please stay safe and healthy, and merry map making. Goodbye, everybody. Take care, okay?